1 million Bitcoin ever. And therefore, price only go up. Bitcoin go up.
In the last 24 hours, the crypto market has experienced over $290 million in liquidations, indicating high volatility. This volatility is reflected in Bitcoin's price movement, which has seen a new lower low, raising concerns among technical analysts. However, on a larger scale, Bitcoin's macro trends show potential for a significant reversal.
I mean, we saw Bitcoin get up to $70-something thousand, drop down to $66,000. I was making the argument that it has been very tied to the NASDAQ, it's been very tied to the markets, and as a result, it is more likely a function of liquidity and sort of speculation than it is a function of what the Federal Reserve is going to do. Even though the Federal Reserve has sort of been moving the markets, what's your analysis of why it's moved the way it has?
Okay, up dramatically.
Right.
You have the ETFs. There's something else going on around the world. There are currency devaluations taking place that people are not talking about. The Nigerian naira is down 50-60% in the last 9 months. Egypt just devalued by 40%. Argentina continuing to devalue. I think this is a flight to safety, believe it or not, taking place. A hedge against devaluation, a hedge against a loss of purchasing power and wealth. That's very important. And we saw this even here last year in the United States. Regional banks imploded.
Right.
Bitcoin went up 40%. Bitcoin does not have counterparty risk. I think, and we're putting out a piece in the next few weeks, which is, this is both, get this, a risk on asset. And so you talk about the NASDAQ.
The risk on.
But it is risk off. I remember we got in at $250 when Greece was threatening to leave the euro, right?
But is that folks that are speculating about currency, or is that folks in Nigeria and in Greece and other places saying, I got to get my money out of this currency and move it themselves? Do you see what I'm saying?
Oh, yes. I think this is an insurance policy against rogue regimes or against just horrible fiscal and monetary policy.
But it got me thinking that for many, this is something that is interesting to be celebrated. You know it's coming in the calendar. For others, they focus on the supply and mechanics of what it does to the market. Where do you focus your attentions?
So for me, I think of the takeaways for the Bitcoin halving and falling into two different spectrums. Firstly, it underpins why we believe Bitcoin is the soundest form of money. There's a whole host of reasons why on the demand side, things like global liquidity, 24/7, 365 market access, permissionless, censorship resistant, like all these nice qualities for why Bitcoin serves as a good form of money. But on the supply side, how reliably can you plan around a currency? And Bitcoin, because of the halving, that there's only ever going to be 21 million Bitcoin in existence. And so on the second part of the takeaway here is that this Bitcoin halving in particular, we celebrate it every roughly 4 years, but this one is the most symbolic, in my opinion, in Bitcoin's history and even looking forward, because at a time when you have people who are looking at their conventional currencies, inflation, interest rates, and the economic environment that they live in, they see this alternative form of currency, Bitcoin, and it's something that has this really crisp story, this idea that as of tomorrow when the halving takes place, 94% of all Bitcoins that will ever exist will have been mined, and less than 1%, we'll see less than 1% inflation in the circulating supply of Bitcoin going forward. So that's a really powerful story, I think, for people, and why the halving is so important.
Thomas, there will be a big section of our audience watching thinking, what has this got to do with me? Is there a chance that they wake up and global financial markets, the world, has been changed by this halving?
No, the halving in of itself isn't going to be a cataclysmic event. We're not talking about a rapture here. But what it is doing is it's reinforcing the narrative of Bitcoin as sound money. And in our opinion, the adoption of Bitcoin and of crypto takes time. This is something that is a very innovative technology. It's very different from how people use money today. And so this is something that's going to take place over 5, 10 years, 20 years, et cetera. And you're going to think of it as almost like a change in culture and a change in understanding of how people transact with one another. And so when we think about this halving in particular, nothing super special, but again, like an important milestone, particularly in this time and age, and we'd love to celebrate it.
Resistance is currently observed on the 50 SMA and 50 EMA on the 4-hour chart, suggesting a need for a close above $66,629 to signal a possible uptrend. Despite short-term concerns, the daily chart indicates a potential bounce towards $68,000, $69,000, with the 200 daily EMA acting as a strong support level. The upcoming Bitcoin halving event is also a factor to consider, as historical trends suggest a post-halving surge in Bitcoin's price. Overall, while short-term corrections are expected, Bitcoin's long-term outlook remains positive, with opportunities for investors to enter the market before potential strong upward momentum. If you don't want to miss any news and learn about blockchain technology easily to achieve real financial freedom, subscribe and click on the bell to not miss any content. Until the next video.